Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Before we begin with today's episode, I do want to say a couple of things. First of all, we did have some tech issues, and as I was editing the podcast, I realized that it was actually better for us to allow the pauses, and the glitches that happened. It would actually sound smoother when I just waited out with the pause and then waited for it to catch up versus cut the pauses out to try to merge the audio together. So just be mindful of that. It's going to be a few minutes of some glitchiness, but it does get better with time. So if anything, I would also ask for you guys to utilize this time and the space and the pauses to kind of reflect upon the conversation and tune back into the conversation. Sometimes I do this myself. When I'm listening to a podcast, I kind of zone out and I find that pauses can kind of bring me back in. So maybe that's what this is meant to do. Now, during this podcast, we're talking about the portal of life and death. So we'll be talking about what it's like to be pregnant, what it's like to birth, what are spiritual practices. We talk about herbalism, we talk about, science and physical therapy, pelvic floor, and we also talk about death. So I just want to bring that up in case this is a sensitive topic for you when it comes to grieving somebody that you've lost. So, yeah, I guess aside from that, I hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode. And let's go ahead and get started.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Vibes with Alma podcast. Woo woo. For this episode, we have a special we have a special guest, Dr. Jane Grant, a doctor of physical therapy, a holistic practitioner, doula, and birth worker. She is the founder of Invigorate Holistic Wellness, which is a space where she provides support for pelvic health and just well-rounded birth work. Myself as a new mama, I was very curious about this, and I reached out to her to see if she would come to the podcast, and she said yes. And here we are. Welcome.
Hey, hey. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So the first question that I usually ask everybody is, because it is a spiritual podcast, I guess, as the focus, like how did you get started with your spiritual path?
Yeah, it's interesting because I grew up in the church. So I grew up in the Baptist family. My great grandfather, who I was very close to throughout my childhood, was a pastor at a church for almost 50 years. And so I come from a very religious background, and then I was always involved in church. So as much as I was like, I wasn't just like there passively participating, I was actively, involved in organized religion, specifically. And through like the choir and through dance ministry and all that beautiful jazz. And so it was interesting because as I was older and I moved away, I started to kind of question if I really started questioning all aspects of my life to figure out if it really fit, where I was going as an adult, as an independent person outside of my family unit. And that's when I decided to just kind of wipe the slate clean and just decide, like, ask myself these questions. And I really did this, like, Jane, what do you believe when it comes to love and marriage? What do you believe when it comes to God? What do you believe when it comes to success? What does that look like for you? And in that, it was when I was like, oh, I feel like there's so much more out there when it comes to convening with the divine than more than just what I have been exposed to and what I'm used to and familiar with. And so I started to just kind of dabble and study different religious practices, different walks. And then I slowly started to get into like Reiki meditation. And from there, it really just opened my eyes to all these different languages and pathways to communicating with spirit, and that there's so much that we don't know, and that there's so many ways of convening, connecting, worshiping, experiencing, basking in, that practice. So it's been interesting, honestly, because it's always been a part of my life. I've always been very spiritually like tuned in, but it's interesting how like stepping outside of what I was, raised in helped me kind of bust open even wider my concept of what I believe the divine is. Because I think that as humans, we just don't have the capacity to really conceptualize what God is, what the divine is, what spirit is. We really don't have the full like ability to really like digest that fully. So it's been a fun journey. So yeah, I had a previous business before my practice, which was the Blooming Herbalist Apothecary, and that's where I did share a lot of my spiritual path, a lot of my work and teachings around Reiki, around healing, inner child healing. It was such a fun, beautiful time. And so, yeah, it's interesting, but that's kind of a little bit of my path with spirituality and spiritual practices. And now I see even birth work very much so a part of that spiritual walk too. So, yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, there's so many beautiful little pathways that we can go through with that.
Yeah.
Something that I'm curious about is your spirituality when you were within the church versus your
Mhm.
spirituality when you found Reiki and meditation. I feel like a lot of people start off with Reiki and meditation, and that's like their gateway drug to everything else. Um, but like, how
Mhm.
would you, because you said that you were always very
Oh.
spiritual, it's just the setting was different. So how would you compare and contrast being under the church spiritually and then finding these alternative ways of spirituality?
The difference between like being in the church and my spirituality and then like finding it kind of separate from that. Um, so I would say, when you grow up in a religion, you are like, it's not, I would say necessarily forced on you. That sounds like such a hard thing to say, but it technically is. It's forced on you, it's around you, it's everything, around you. But I think for me, when I was able to get a little older and able to understand the teachings for myself in church, I really found that I connected most with the divine through music, and through singing, because I come from a very musical family. We sing, even now, we sing to heal ourselves. We sing in times of tragedy or grief. We sing. That is our thing. So I found that I would connect the most through singing and through the communal aspect of church. I was very involved in like the youth. And so I do believe that like being in the church at that time of my life was really pivotal for my development, for my mental health as a whole. I do believe that it really helped save my life in a lot of ways when I was going through a lot of different things in my teenage years and, really kind of struggling with some depression and things like that. Being in that communal space and around other people and having a safe space where I could process what I was feeling and have guidance was very healing for me. Now, when I pivoted, it's interesting because even when I used to teach Reiki courses, because I am a Reiki level 3 like teacher, and so even when I used to teach my courses, I would always say that Reiki was just kind of the introduction. It kind of opened the door for what would be. And so being in that space and tapping into spirituality, I was able to like take this lens off, kind of like a horse. A horse has blinders when they're racing. And so like you can still see the path, right? But then when you step outside of an organized path, you're able to kind of take those blinders off and see that there are multiple paths or there are other people around you kind of thing. And so for me, I was able to, really see that God was in everything and everywhere. And I was able to kind of expand my idea of what I thought God was. And it also helped me not feel so disempowered sometimes and I feel like I have to feel worthless in order to receive blessings or in order to receive God's love and God's grace and God's mercy. And some of the ways that when I reflect back, those things kind of make me cringe because I think that we are all deserving of compassion and love and this unconditional, experience that we have with the divine. I don't think that we are innately born in a way that makes us less than that. And so I was able to just like tap into my own inner power, and that helped me heal in so many ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, but also create a safe space for other people. And so even though I don't identify in that specific pathway or, belief system anymore, it is still my foundation.
Yeah.
So I still believe in the values and the pillars of Christianity, of loving one another, of compassion, of kindness, because I think that's what it is. And I think it gets lost in translation when too many people start talking. But I do think that it helps me to understand that language for other people that speak to me and that come around me that are in that specific pathway. And I can also really hold a space and understand where you are a little differently. But yeah, I would say it's definitely different. It's a little, it's a little different. When I look back, it's not that different in a way, but I think that comes also with decolonizing your perspective on religion and spirituality. That's a whole nother, that's a whole
That's
nother
a whole
conversation.
other, yeah, that's a whole other podcast. Mm-mm.
Exactly. So, yes. But yeah, it's like those differences, which I think that I always say that from the beginning. Like, I feel like I was able to see God in everything in a way that I didn't before. Maybe I saw God here, but I realized like, oh, God can be anywhere. God is the breeze. God is the storms. God is the trees. And, God is everything and everywhere. Like, the spirit is literally always in communication and co-creation with us. And it wasn't this separate process that I had been kind of designed to somewhat see. It was like, oh, this is so much more expansive and limitless than I could have ever imagined.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that, being able to separate from the original Christian foundation and do something completely different, but then still be able to go back and reintegrate the foundation of Christianity and like the morals and values that come with that, but then make it your own, kind of mimics or parallels your journey with your spiritual
Yeah.
practice to like now your birth work and your physical therapy.
Yeah.
Um, which is what we're gonna get to next.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I started following you, like how we talked about before. I started following you when you had your herbalist page and your
Yeah.
herbalist business. And then you went into physical therapy. So how was that transition for you?
Yeah, well, it's actually interesting because it depends on where you met me in my journey, right? Because I actually so I went to just a backstory for everyone listening as well. So I actually attended the illustrious Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee. I am an HBCU graduate 2 times, and so I
Ooh.
graduated from Tennessee State. Thank you. I graduated from Tennessee State, and I went directly into my physical therapy program. So I was applying in my senior year, and which is funny because even that process was very spiritual for me. Because I've always been very spiritual. So I was reading like a book about purpose. It was one of the I forget the name of the book at this point. It maybe like a spinoff of the Purpose Driven Life, which was a Christian book that many people and personal development book that many people were reading at a period of time. So I was reading a different version that took you through like 30 days of kind of like sitting and praying and all the things. And in that period, I was like applying for school, like, and it's very competitive to get in. And so with that, I was just every time I would submit something, every time I would get a rejection, I was always like, God, I trust you. I trust you. I trust you. If this is meant for me, allow it to be. If it's not, allow me to pivot and do something else. And that's a prayer that I still use even now, all day, every day. If it's for me, allow it to flow with ease. If it's not, allow it to flow away from me with ease. So in
Beautiful.
that period, every day to change your life, I'm telling you, just be like, if it don't gotta be so hard, I don't want it to get snatched so bad. Just let it flow away easeful. I'm too sensitive for that. I'm a sensitive gangster. I can't do it. So like, please, life is too hard for real. So in that, I ended up going directly into my PT program. So I graduated in like May of 2015, and then I went and started my program in August of 2015 at Hampton University. And from there, that was when I had a moment where I kind of woke up and I was like, I feel like I've been in autopilot. Like I've just done the things that everybody told me I was supposed to do. Like that my parents said was the best bet, get a job, study something that gets you a job, do this, do that. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm in this program. It's hard as hell. Our first year is very rigorous because it kind of weeds out people. And it is really hard. You're also like going through anatomy and you're dissecting cadavers, so you're dissecting essentially corpses. Like you're doing so much, you're learning neuroscience, you're taking in so much like new information that it is like overwhelming to the system. And that was when I realized like, oh, I have ADHD. Oh, I can't study like everybody else. Oh wow, I don't have great study habits at all. Oh wow, all of these different things are clicking in, and you have a limit, right, in this period, in
Yeah.
this like court, in these like programs. You can only fail so much before you actually fail out of the program altogether, or all these things. So all of these people were like looking at me to, like, oh, Jane said that she was going to do XYZ and she did XYZ. And now I have to like finish it. I have to see it through. People are now calling me Dr. Grant and I don't even have the degree yet. And so I'm like, how do I do this and not like literally fall apart at the same time? That's when I realized like, oh, anxiety is actually what I'm experiencing. As in the Black community, that's not something that I think we talk about it more now, but that was not something I ever fight with. I thought that was just like a white lady thing, in all honesty. It was really something
Yeah.
that I felt or identified in myself. And so I realized like, oh, this is debilitating anxiety. Oh, wow, that's a panic attack. Oh, wow, the things I'm experiencing are like intense. So I started to study. That's when I started to go to yoga classes because I had tried yoga in college and undergrad. And I was like, oh, I really like this. So I started going to yoga classes. I started to get curious about the chakra system. I started to get curious about meditation. I met some girl that had a chakra like tattoo. And I was like, I love your tattoo. And then she started telling me about Reiki. And I had never heard anything like that before. And I was like, oh, intrigued. And then from there, I started studying nutrition. I'm a vegan. I then studied, herbalism. And so I started like leaving class and going to a herbal shop in Virginia and like just like dabbling in the herbs. As people were walking in, they were putting me on the spot to help people make blends, things like that. So my business, that business and that side grew at the same time with the physical therapy aspect. So when I graduated, I just was like, people were asking me for blends. They were like, I got a code, something's going on, help me. And I was just really sharing my journey and the things I was learning, and it became a business. It was really just a hobby that became more of a business for me. And so it was like fun to kind of dabble in that side because I knew I wanted to open up a private practice in my physical therapy career path. So I was like, oh, I get a chance to try my hand at business and see how it goes. And so, and then like being able to now be independent and full time in my business and now specializing in pelvic health, I can really fuse all those things together because pelvic floor physical therapy is so holistic in approach.
Mhm.
Your stress, the way that you handle your day-to-day life, your ability to access things, your like trauma, your unaddressed emotions and stored emotions are all impactful to what I see in your body physically.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to kind of bridge that gap between what I already feel energetically and spiritually when you're in front of me, when you're around me, when I'm touching you. And then I can see that and use that physical, kind of therapy like knowledge to also help support you, which is why my practice is Invigorate Holistic Wellness, because I'm really like honoring the whole person. So it's interesting because it was never really like a direct transition from one or the other. It was just like my journeys have been intertwined from the jump, honestly. So
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of people, and by a lot of people, I'm definitely probably exaggerating, like they see someone that's spiritual or looking into herbal things and they don't see the knowledge that goes behind it. Like for you to be able to do blends, you need to know fatty acids, you need to know biochemistry, you need to know chemistry in general, period, right? To be able to have a perfect concoction depending on the person's skin, the person's muscles, the person's like contraindications, indications, how the plant's gonna work, like all of this goes into play. And I don't think herbalism or
yeah,
any spiritual thing sometimes gets enough credit to how much knowledge you actually truly need to have.
for
Um,
sure. For sure.
yeah, especially scientific knowledge, girl. Biochemistry is hard.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, and it's helpful working with like actually working in the healthcare system and working with, everyday people that I probably would never work with, people that probably don't even have social media, would have never found me in any other way. Working with people that are not interested in herbs,
Mm-hmm.
interested in things, it helps you have a different perspective. Because what I see sometimes in the holistic space is that we work with people that we want to work with, and we work with people that get our language and that understand
Yeah.
it, but it's a different muscle that you have to develop and work and strengthen when you have to work with somebody that has absolutely no concept of what you're talking about or understanding of it, and you're bringing them this new knowledge. It doesn't mean that they may not be completely open to it. It just may be that you have to change your language. It may be that you have to, personalize it for their lifestyle, for their understanding. And so I think because I have, dabbled in the holistic thing, I've been all the different types of vegan. I was vegan for 7 years. I'm no longer vegan, praise the Lord. But I was vegan,
Praise the Lord.
girl. I was all the types of vegan. I was an alkaline vegan. I was all the things. Okay. I did all the things. I went to all the extremes, all the Dr. Sebi, all of that. I did all of that. And then to also be in the, it's kind of these dual versions of my like
Yeah.
reality and my experience. And then being in this healthcare system that I already don't necessarily agree with, that I'm seeing cause harm, that I'm seeing all these different things, I'm able to see it I just am able to see it kind of a middle ground very differently. I'm able to see more of an integrative approach where those things can coexist at the same time. So yeah, it's interesting because herbalism can be seen in so many different ways. It doesn't have to just be, a lot of times people get into herbalism and they only do it for the clinical and medical aspect. They don't acknowledge any of the spiritual aspect. They're not looking at flower essence, or they're not interested in kind of, the folk use or magical use, the hoodoo use of herbs, and using it in different ways to empower your experience and heal you in that way. Some people don't see it like that, and that's okay. So it's interesting because I feel like my perspective is unique, and I think that it helps me with the people that find me, basically.
Yeah, I love you said that there's a muscle that people need to develop as well to be able to speak
Mhm.
about these spiritual things with someone that does not understand the lingo.
Right.
Because that's something that my husband would make fun of. Whenever I would try to talk to him, he's like, "What the? You sound crazy, Ashley." And I'm like, "Well, you just don't get it." But then because of him, I've learned to speak in it, to speak
You just
about
don't
things.
understand me.
Yeah, it's like you're a man, okay? Um, but he's definitely helped me learn how to articulate what I think, what I feel, what I want to express in
Yeah.
ways that
Yeah.
he would be able to receive, right? So that's hilarious. I
Right.
love that.
Yes.
Okay. I love your shirt, by the way. Maternal health. I'm assuming it says
Yeah,
maternal health
maternal health is a
matters.
human right. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Shout out to Sister Song. This is Sister Song Women of Color Reproductive Justice Collective. They're based out in Atlanta, Georgia, but they have branches in various states. They do have a branch here in Kentucky. I'm based in Louisville, Kentucky, and I do a lot of great work with them. They have a care fund where people can get access to baby products and as well as, services, birth working services. The care fund is closed for the rest of the year because we're trying to get more funding for it. We had a numerous a crazy amount of applications this year, which is amazing. We got to serve so many families. But yeah, this is one of my favorites because it's just beautiful work in the ways that we try to make birth and reproductive justice accessible for people of color and people of various marginalized identities. So yes.
Yes, I'm gonna need to get that information so I can share it in the show notes.
Yes,
That
for
way
sure.
people that are interested can look into it a little bit more and then donate or just help out whichever way they can.
Yes.
Um, because helping out moms and just women that are giving birth and stuff is definitely God sent. Like you guys are angels. So talking about that, we're talking
Yeah.
about pelvic health. So how did you
Oh, yeah.
specialize in pelvic health, or what drew you to specialize in pelvic health for physical therapy?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Right. So let's start with what pelvic health is, because a lot of people
Mm,
know. So I think it's important to start there. So as a physical therapist, I can specialize in various areas. So one area I can specialize in is pelvic floor physical therapy. I say pelvic health because I do a number of different things, not just solely pelvic floor stuff, but the pelvic floor and pelvic health, your period, all the things also are kind of under one umbrella. So the pelvic floor is a group of muscles, connective tissue, and ligaments, various things that make up the base of your pelvis. So everybody has a pelvis, and at the bottom of it, we have these beautiful muscles that support our organs. They help us pee, poop, have sex. They help with circulation, and they also provide stability and support to our spine and the rest of our hip complex, because
Mhm.
our hips are really designed to give us some stability and mobility, but it's really to give us the stability and help our entire back end system. Our spine connects to our hips. So the pelvic floor provides that stability. If we didn't have the pelvic floor at the base of our pelvis, then everything would just fall out of the bottom of our bodies. So it is there almost like a trampoline or a hammock sling, and it acts in a very responsive way with our movement, with the way that we deal with stress, when we deal with pleasure. It's a pleasure center as well. So it's a very interesting part of the body. And so I basically talk to people about their pee, poop, and sex all day, and it's so much fun. I love talking about very taboo things, clearly, because I like to watch how people get kind of uncomfortable when you bring up things, but also like let's unpack that. Let's talk. Why is it a problem? Everybody pees, poops, and everybody came here because of like by way of sex. So if that's uncomfortable for you, let's figure out how to work through it so we don't deal with shame in our bodies as well. So that is pelvic. That is the pelvic floor. That is pelvic floor physical therapy. So we support people with understanding the muscles, improving or decreasing pain. We give you insight on different movement patterns as well, talking about nutrition, wellness, and we talk a lot about the nervous system, because the nervous system has a large impact on our pelvic floor. So that looks like talking about how do you deal with moments of being overwhelmed as a mom, or how do you breathe and work on your stressors, or maybe you need to go see a therapist or someone to process your childhood trauma that is also still coming up in your body. And so it's interesting because it is innately kind of holistic in a sense. So I started out my career in geriatrics. So I was working with older people. I was going to people's homes. I was working in like assisted living facilities, nursing homes, etc. It was very beautiful work. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with the end of life. I enjoy, as most doulas that you'll learn, as most of us that are doulas or call ourselves doulas and find ourselves in these roles, we usually are doulas in many senses. So we usually are doulas that are also deaf doulas. We are usually doulas that are also pleasure doulas or sensuality doulas, or we are there to really help you transition in various aspects of life. And so I find myself on the end of the life and the beginning of the life. I am what I like to call like a portal keeper. I stand there at the portal and ease people as they exit and help them as they enter. And so it was beautiful work, but I was so burnt out. And I decided to move back home. I went full time in my herbal shop, and I was selling things and doing courses and stuff during the peak of the pandemic when we were all inside. And so I was very active virtually. That's probably when you like came around into my world at that point.
Yeah.
And so it got to a point where I realized like I went through a lot of death in my own family, and I was a deaf doula in that, right? I went through my own little spiritual initiation at that time. And I just got to a point where I really wanted to kind of close off what I shared with the world as much. I think I just really went into a period of kind of processing like life being so much bigger than what that's a good, how do I word that? Like my perspective of the way I was sharing it before just really changed when it came to
Yeah.
my spiritual practice. When it came to guiding other people, I just felt like it was so much bigger than me, and I felt like I needed to just shut up. And so I kind of took a moment to just like be quiet and to sit and to give my medicine to myself and not so much to everyone else. And in that, I was like, okay, so we need to go back to work. We need to go and use this career in this path. So, how do we do it in a way that is actually enjoyable? How do we not hate it? How do we find our path, right? If I know I want to open my own practice, but how do I do that? What do I even want to spend? What do I want to do in my practice? Because I didn't want to do the regular traditional physical therapy route. I'm not really inspired and turned on by that as a whole. So I'm like, okay, how do I enjoy this? And so I started taking pelvic health classes around 2021. And then by 2022, I had decided like, oh, I really like this and I can actually be really holistic in this approach. And I think this is my path. And so by that time, everybody was pregnant around me as well. My best friends, my brother's girlfriend, my cousin, everybody was, it
Ooh,
was like a
perfect
soldier
timing.
baby. Right. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to help these people. And so I started taking a doula course at that time. I got certified to be a doula in 2000, in 2022. And that's when everything just kind of like, peaked from there. So it's been over the last 3 years that I've kind of been in this specialty and I really enjoy it. It feels like this is where all the roads led to this moment because this was exactly what I was designed to do. This is exactly the part of my career path that feels the most like easeful for me. It feels like I belong here, and it feels like there's no better person to talk about pee poop, sex, your stressors, and all the things but me. Yes. So that is kind of a long way of saying this is, it was just, a moment of I felt called. I don't know. I felt
Yeah, there
called
was a
to it.
calling there.
Uh-huh.
Of course, of course. Yeah, I totally like there's a lot of things that you're saying that resonate
Yeah.
with me too, like, and I love how you felt the need to, for a lack of a better word, shut up, right? Like stop talking, stop sharing, and just retreat. Like, because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot, and this happened to me, right? There was one point that I just felt so happy with what I was learning. It felt so good to me that I just wanted to share with everybody. I wanted to
For sure.
provide all of these card readings. I wanted to provide all of these energy healings.
Yes.
And then it comes to a moment where it's like, hold up, I am drained. I'm not
Mhm.
feeling good. I'm not
Mhm.
getting the abundance that I thought I was going to get.
That
I'm not
part.
getting the fulfillment that I thought I was going to get.
Yes.
This is not supposed to feel this way. I'm not supposed to be coming out of like survival mode trying to do all of this.
That part.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, girl.
Yeah.
So I started retreating then. And I mean, now being a mom, I'm definitely in that limbo that you were at, you know?
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
really limbo, but I'm in my own little cave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, So it's nice and beautiful to see that you as an example of
Yeah.
retreating, and
Mhm.
maybe you had that doubt, maybe you had those worries, but you're still here, and now you're at a place where it's like
Yeah,
this
for
is
sure.
exactly what you were meant to be doing. Um,
Oh, for sure. And I think, and one thing to your point is that I think, let me see. So for context for those that are listening, I know that you know Ashley because you have, followed and seen, especially in that time in my life, you did
yeah,
see kind of what I was experiencing. But so I'll start in 2019. I had four family members pass. Three were on my maternal side and one was paternal. And that was a moment like spiritually where I felt very called to step into it was like it was the craziest feeling because it was like just something that was like, oh, I trained for this. Like it was like when things were happening and people were passing, I like walked in, like my grandmother was passing. I got a call that she had already been in the hospital for a couple days. And then it was just a crazy kind of way that it unfolded very quickly. And then I got a call. I was in Nashville. My family's in Louisville. That's a 2.5 hour drive or so. So I got a call like, hey, Granny is dying. And I was like, whoa, this is our matriarch. So I drop everything, go kind of thing. So I flew 100 miles per hour. Me and my cat, I had a kitten at the time. We flew home. He had never even been home like that before. He was like, what is going on? So we flew home and I get there to the hospital. I didn't even like pack any clothes for real. I thought I packed some pants and a shirt. I really just packed like two pants. It didn't make any sense. Like it was just that's kind of like the headspace. I was just like, and so as soon as I
yeah,
walked in the room, I like, gave kisses and hugs to my family members. And this is pre-COVID, so we were packed out in the hospital. Like we took up the entire waiting room. People had to go to a different waiting room because it was our waiting room. And so we were in there and I immediately went to the sink, washed my hands and started doing Reiki. And it was kind of like, this is why you learned all these things. This is why you've been doing all this work. It was like a moment of like, this is it. And so in that, it was a very hard time because like I said, this is our matriarch. And And it was just like, what is about to happen? My family is never going to be the same. And it hasn't been the same. I mean, that's just what happens when people's grandparents pass and stuff. It's just your family just changes. And so at the same time, my grandfather was also kind of declining as well, my great grandfather. And I was very, very close to my great grandfather. We were very, very close. And so I remember even in that time, I'm like sitting with him and just kind of talking to him and telling him this is the one that was a pastor. So kind of talking to him and telling him like, Gramps, I found these gifts and these things that I did not find in the church, but I do believe they are of God. And I just want you to know that this is what I am supposed to do, for you. And that makes me
Oh,
emotional.
wow. It's making me emotional listening.
But
Wow.
like this is where I don't, yeah, I didn't want you to be, I don't want you to be afraid of what is to come, because I see and I'm creating the space for you all to ease over in love and in transition. And in that season, that just changed me a
Yeah.
lot. And so it changed to the people that raise you and that are your safe space to hold them in death. Your relationship with spirit changes so much after that. And so those moments were very hard, but they were so intimate and they were so beautiful. And like I became so like spiritually like convicted and stronger. Like it was a crazy point in my spiritual journey as well. And then fast forward, that was 2019, and then fast forward because my great grandparents passed within a month of each other, and they were married 73 years. So we knew that that was gonna be like that, like all my life.
Yeah.
We knew that was going to happen. And so then 2021, and then like 2020, I had a friend that passed away. 2021, I had my maternal grandfather, so my mom's dad passed. That was really shitty. And then like a few months later,
Mhm.
and a few months later, then my uncle unexpectedly got sick and he also passed, and he was younger, so that was like really hard because like the other ones, they're older, they kind of have health issues, but then it's like, oh, when somebody's younger, it's unexpected, and like we literally can't do anything else. It's just like that was like so sad at the same time. And then I had a best friend that also passed shortly after that, unexpected, another situation, a young person that passed. And so in that, I think after those things, it was just kind of like, oh, I don't know shit. You like come to this point in your spiritual journey, I don't know anything. Like, I don't know. I feel like I thought I knew something, I think, like, oh, I know a little bit about a lot, but I don't know nothing. But it was like, oh, really apparent, like this life thing is so much bigger than what I don't even like, it's hard to articulate because it was just like like it's so much like to process in those periods of time. And so
Mhm.
I'm also like at a point where I'm holding space for my family in a way, and I'm not grieving as a um granddaughter. I'm not grieving as a niece. I am tapping in spiritually as a provider, as a practitioner. And that just really drained me. I didn't feel like myself for a couple years, kind of thing. So it felt like, oh, all this medicine I've been sharing with other people, I need to pour it into me. I need to create a space where I just get back to being myself. And also, I don't know a damn thing. Live your life. Like, I have no idea what I'm going. This stuff is it's so unpredictable. I don't even know. All I can tell you is live your life. That's the best thing. And I'm going to live my life, and let's have a good time, and let's be in our bodies right now. Like I felt like I was up here for a long time and I needed to
Yeah.
just come down and be more embodied. And so it was just a very like interesting period of time because um there was so much responsibility that I felt in that time. And I think that's also why I kind of took a back seat for a bit, because I was like, oh, okay, I can't be responsible for nobody else's stuff. I don't even know. I got to process my own shit over here because I don't know. I don't even know if I'm coming or going. What's going on? Like all of these
Yeah.
people were like my safe spaces are passing, they're transitioning, even though I have a different concept of death than day-to-day society. I see death as a continuance onward. I see death as a beautiful transition. It's still hard because their human form is, I'm still human. I'm
Yeah.
human. I just want to be human. Like that was it. I just like, I want to be human. I don't want to, don't look for me for answers. I don't know anymore. I thought I knew something. I don't know anything. I just am gonna be human. So if you or anybody else is in this liminal space, there's nothing wrong with that. Cause I think there was like a grief that also came with like dissolving my herbal business and kind of shifting from that. I did not want to do that. I was just like, no, no, no. I put so much into this. I've poured so much and I've built such beautiful community. But those people are still here. They're still around. Like I still make herbal blends for people. I just wanted to do it for my family and my friends. I didn't want to have to save the world anymore. Like I was like, oh, what is this savior complex? What is this? What's going on here? Like, so yeah, it's just, I think that's life though. We're going to go through these ebbs and flows and we'll have these spaces where it's time to transition and it's this dead space of like, whew, okay, something's about to shift really heavily. I don't know what. And then when it happens, then we'll be like, oh, we'll look back and be like, oh, wow. Okay, I see when it changed. I see what was happening. So yeah, I'd say all that to say, just be patient in your liminal space. Be patient with yourself because we don't know what we're doing.
We don't. We really don't. I'm over here just trying to survive.
Fight for my life.
Yeah. Just make it through the day. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
this reminded me of the card
Yes. Yes.
that,
Because,
yeah.
because this last full moon, this came up for me a lot. So she pulled this card before the call. And it's like this came up for me a lot. It was like, wow, I think I'm still really processing that season. Like I think I am still like spiritually really sitting with the heaviness of that season and
Mhm.
also the decisions that I had to make to shift. Like I think that I'm in a beautiful place in my life and I'm really in my purpose. I'm walking my purpose in ways that I never have before. But it was like, wow, that was like a crazy whirlwind of things. Like, whew, I felt like I was I don't know if y'all been seeing the TikToks or the videos of like the people they're on this like wave ride. They're on this like I don't know what the word is, but they're on this wave rider. They're on this ride and they're like surfing. It's like a little surf simulators at like a water park or something. And people
Yes.
are getting tossed every which way. Have you seen it? And then people are like naked because they're like get like their swimsuits and stuff are like coming off as they're on the ride. And that's how I felt. Like what the
Oh my God, that's
that's
hilarious.
how that's how I felt. And it's like hot to holiday. Da, 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 da. That is exactly how I felt.
Mm,
Exactly. So
that's hilarious. For those of you that didn't get to see very well, this is the tower card version of this oracle deck. So we're doing tower card things, talking about tower card vibes, living tower card things.
dismantle it. And also I feel like we get to a point where we find these new identities and versions of ourselves and we like attach and like fixate on them and hold on to them. And
Mhm.
then when it's time to shift and change, there's so much grief with it because we made that our identity for that period of time. And I think that I was fearful of stepping away from that because I'm like, oh, I feel like this was my identity. Like I feel like this was who I was and this is who I was supposed to be for forever. But like, baby, if I learned nothing else from working with people, you have so many phases and increments in your life. Like who we were in 20 something, baby, at about 70, we're going to be 5 million different people. I remember one time, and this is so like trivial, but it's really not because I see spiritual stuff and everything. I'm like one of those preachers. Like I was on a bike the other day and I felt the word. Like that's kind of how I operate. So like, I remember I was sitting with a lady. She was on the bike. She had a bike downstairs in her house. She was on the bike, and I'm working with her for whatever. I forgot. She maybe had a fall or something like that. She was super sweet. I want to say she was in her 70s or so. And so she was on the bike and we were just talking. I used to just talk to her, girl talk with her. And I'm just like, and she was like, yeah, my husband, my first husband, yeah, he died, blah, blah, blah. We were together 20 years. And then my second husband, he did this and that. And then my third husband, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hold on. She's had 3 loves of her life why am I worried about one person? This
Mm-hmm.
is crazy. And I was just like, and it was just one of those moments of like, you literally can like shift and change and morph and shape shift so many times. Holding on to this one, those versions of you don't go anywhere. Holding on to this one version of yourself as out of fear that they're somehow just going to disappear or that you're only supposed to be this person for the next 30, 50 years is crazy because you've never been 50 years old before. You've never been the age that you are right now. So let yourself be fluid and to change. And I allowed myself in that time to be fluid and to change. And it brought me to a place where all of the versions of me leading up to this moment can be integrated in this one path, you know? So baby, let it all crumble, let it fall. Because you know what? It might be falling to come together.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Amen, Ashe.
Mm-hmm. And so it is. I hope that.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yes.
I love that. That's beautiful. I know many people needed to hear that for sure. Um, so the other thing
Yes.
was you talking about being this doula and the I want to say concierge, even though I don't know what that means. Just helping people transition from one side to the other. In that
Yeah.
aspect, in that time, it was from this life to a better life.
Mhm.
And now you're also helping people literally bring a new form, a new being into this world. So how has that been, shifting, being a keeper of this portal from death to life?
Yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah.
I know. Every time and it's so funny because every time that's how you know I genuinely like it. Because every time I talk about like my work with pelvic health or I talk about my birth work, I'm always like, oh, fun. I'm having so much fun because I am. I'm just having a ball. It is really a beautiful experience to be a part of people's journeys. Like it's such a
Mm,
beautiful and intimate space. And I am so honored that people trust me with. And I am so happy to be able to serve in that manner. I've always been the kid that loved I was either with sitting under the elders or I was holding babies. So I was like always the one that was also obsessed with labor and delivery because I thought it was just so fascinating how we have babies. Like I just thought like since I was young. I used to watch the Lifetime used to have baby stories. It was a show that was on Lifetime and they would show like actual labor and delivery and the like and it would be kind of like almost like reality TV documentary type of style. And so
mhm.
they would show these different people going into the hospital to have their babies and blah, 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 blah. And I used to watch it being just so obsessed. So it's funny how I'm back at this place because it's very much so an inner child thing for me as well to be able to be in the space and to see life come to pass. I think that is beautiful. But it's interesting because as a doula, my work is not so much in like the baby is kind of like a part of it, but
Mm,
really my work is supporting the mother or the birthing person. My work is there creating a space for you. And so because I believe that, yeah, it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a team to really birth a mother. It takes support to really birth that you are birthing a new version of yourself at the same time. Being pregnant is such spiritual labor,
yeah.
because there is so much of your own unresolved stuff that comes up through your pregnancy. I have people right now, literally doula clients right now, they're like, oh, I'm processing things that I thought I worked through. And it's just like coming up so heavily for me. And I'm like, oh yeah, because your baby is literally like kicking that stuff up out of your energy bodies. Like, I need to have room. I need room. So
Mm-hmm.
all this shit that you hold on to got to go kind of thing. So it's really beautiful, work to do. And yes, the babies are like the best part of it. Yes. But my work is really holding the mother. My work is really creating a space to feel heard, for them to feel heard and seen, for them to be informed. And that is such beautiful, beautiful work. And sometimes, I have people that, they may not want the super woo-woo of it all. But I still find a way of kind of sprinkling it in there every now and then because this process and this transition is so spiritual. But then I have other people, they're like, yes, let's do the woo-woo. So we're gonna sit and we're gonna meditate table, go get your baby. Like, we're gonna go, you know, we're gonna sit and we're gonna process these different things. We're gonna think about your previous birth experience that maybe brought you trauma. And we're gonna allow that to, you know, have a space. We're gonna listen to it and then we're gonna let it go so that you can be present in this birth, in this pregnancy. And so I really enjoy being able to be at that side of the portal. I really enjoy being able to hold families because I don't only just hold the mother, but I hold, you know, the father, or I hold the partner, the friend, the sister, whoever is there that's holding you, that's like trying to support you. I'm also holding them too, because this is a transition for them as well. So I think it's interesting because we only as our society we fixate on the baby and we don't hold the mother, and we don't also honor the fourth trimester, which is, you know, the period after the baby is here, when people are only worried about the baby and they're not necessarily worried about you. They're not necessarily asking you questions, or they're not holding you in the ways that maybe you need to, or, you know, seeing where they can step in and support you. So I love being able to empower my doula clients also with the language to create boundaries around that and understand how to ask for support and help as well in that period. So yeah, it's been a fun experience, but it's also very much so like I'm still operating in my spiritual bag for sure. And I'm still gaining skills in that area of how to holistically support you know, mothers and babies. I'm still very much so doing that, but it's really cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I don't I get that everybody has their own version or their own vision about spiritual stuff and things like that, and they might not see birth or pregnancy or even postpartum as something that's like spiritual or woo-woo. But to me, that
Yeah.
was the most spiritual thing that I could have ever gone through. Like
Hmm.
pregnancy was its own thing, birth was its
Yeah.
own thing, and now I'm going through postpartum. So I'm for sure once I'm done, whatever that means, right? Because you're never
Yeah.
really done with postpartum. Like once I'm kind of more with a little wrapped bow around this experience in the postpartum stage, I'm sure I'm gonna look back and say like that was spiritual AF as well. But there has nothing that has been able to compare for me, which I guess I'll slowly share in future episodes and stuff. But yeah, it's a very spiritual experience, and it's beautiful how everything that you've gone through has just been building upon the last thing, and you've been able to just integrate everything. And I don't think we talked about what a doula is in the first place. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
um,
So a doula is a non-medical like birth companion. So I'm not there to catch your babies. I think sometimes people get doula mixed up with like a
yeah.
midwife. I'm not catching the baby, even though I probably would like to. I feel like that's a lot of responsibility. Um, but it kind of intimidates me. But I am,
Girl,
you know, I'm the person. The doula is, I mean, the midwife is someone that supports you from the waist down. That's kind of how we break it down. They support you from the waist down. So they're making sure that your baby is safe, that you're also safe for sure. But their job is to make sure that that labor experience helps to produce a, you know, a good outcome essentially. As a doula, I'm supporting you from the waist up. So I'm making sure that you have emotional, physical support, that you are informed and educated on the phases of labor, on nutrition, on all these various aspects of your pregnancy and the childbirthing experience. Now, I think it's also important to note that there are various types of doulas. So not
yeah,
every doula is a birth doula. So not every doula is like going into the birth space with you. Some people, they don't want to do that. There are also postpartum doulas. So their whole role is supporting you in the postpartum period, being able to help you with the early healing and making sure that you have support, you understand side effects, red flags, yellow flags, to get the support that you need, giving you even tools for infant care, or you know, tools and support with like prepping your meals, cleaning your home, making sure that you can have an easeful postpartum period, and supporting you in that way. And then there
yeah,
are people that support people even preconception as well. So there are like fertility doulas and stuff when you are going through fertility processes or you're trying to create the optimal environment for a healthy, viable pregnancy. Those are those doulas as well. There are also loss and termination doulas. I'm a full spectrum doula, so I support all aspects of the experience. So when people are experiencing losses, miscarriages, stillbirths, or they are having even experiencing a loss or a termination through abortion, there are doulas that assist with that as well. So assisting your healing, your body, your mental health, your emotional health, your well-being, your processing, your energetic well-being, all of that good stuff. So when I work with people, we work together. I understand what your goals are. Okay, what do you really want? Some people are like, I don't want to feel no pain at all. I want to figure out how not to feel any pain, blah, blah, blah. They fixate on the pain. So we work on, okay, let's getting our brain and our body prepared for that. Let's figure out any fears that you have while they're coming up and let's process those things and let me provide you with education so that you can make an informed decision when you're in the hospital, when you're in the birthing space. If things change and shift because birth is uncontrollable, it's unpredictable, the best thing we can do is educate and inform ourselves. Then you have the tools and the awareness to say, oh, I do want this, I don't want this. Oh, can you break down the benefits of this? You know how to really find your voice in the birthing space. And, that is kind of what we do as doulas as a whole. But yeah, we're more of the non-medical birth companion, supporting you through that experience. And so when I am working with somebody and they're actually in labor, I am also very hands-on. If you're up, I'm up. So, I'm not like sleep just because, I'm tired. I will take a break because I am a human. There are times when I need to like step aside and take a nap, take a car nap or something. But it is also labor for me as well. So I am
Mhm.
with you. I'm doing hands-on methods. I'm helping you with comfort measures, pain relief. I'm giving you some support. I'm reminding you to relax, to breathe. I'm reminding you of your birth plan or what your barriers or boundaries are. I'm also, talking you through if things change and we have to make different decisions. We have to go to plan B from plan A, or we have to pivot from plan B to plan C, or we got to do another plan that we didn't plan on. Like we're going to pivot and we're going to figure out what's the best option for you, your family, your baby, your well-being, all that good stuff. And that also makes you feel empowered in the birth space.
Yeah, and I would say from experience, you definitely want a doula
Yes.
and the midwife or the doctor,
Yes.
whatever you choose to do. Yeah.
True. Yeah. But having a doula is helpful. I think people have I actually got a question on TikTok that I need to respond to. I was gonna make a video, but it's just like somebody's like, well, how do you help married couples? And I think it's interesting because I see doulas as supportive of everyone. I see doula care is for the entire family. Personally, I've had families where they have other children, and even my presence is helpful. I had a support with another doula client, and her daughter knew, like, I have a doctorate and they call me Dr. Jane and da da da. And so like for Halloween, she dressed up in a doctor's outfit and she was so excited, and I would like bring her little gifts when I came and stuff too. And then, when things changed in labor and we had to make some choices and decisions, I was there for the husband as they're, wheeling her back to the OR where he's looking at me and he's looking scared. And I'm like, shit, I'm scared too. But I was like able to be like the grounding force. I was able to be the grounding force and to say, we're okay, we're good, to
Yeah.
also make him feel like, make sure that he was also included in that space. So it's a time where you should be as present as possible, and you don't want to put it just all on you and your partner to only to only be the ones to make the decisions and get the support and the advocacy. You want to
Yeah.
make sure that you have somebody that's also there that can kind of fill in those gaps when he's burned out and tired because he's been up with you doing this for the last 24 hours. I can step in and give him some relief so that he can also be present in this process, or whatever the case may be. So yeah,
Yeah, because
please get a
labor
doula.
lasts, yeah, oh yeah, labor lasts forever, bro. Like I mean, I got checked into the hospital Friday and I didn't give birth till Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, but I am the woman or the person giving birth. My body is having adrenaline rushes. I don't feel the concept of time and space right now. So I'm not getting tired or getting as exhausted or drained as the other people that are there that are just living their normal life. So my doula,
Yeah.
speaking from it from like a woman that gave birth and has a doula, right? Like
Yeah.
my doula helped my husband in that way where it's like, all right, you're tired, but go to sleep. I'm gonna stay up with Ashley and I'm gonna be there. If something happens, I'll wake you up, but just no worries, go to sleep. And then my doula went, once my
Yeah,
husband woke up, my doula took like a nap, came back, and it was
right.
just kind of like that. It's like, oh, he's freaking out. All right, cool, I'll watch Ashley. Oh, you need to shower? Oh, cool, I'll watch Ashley. Like it was just this beautiful way of like, it's not just all on the husband because he or the partner, because they're going to
Yeah,
get tired. They are.
absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
this is no joke. Yeah, this is labor. It's called labor for a reason because it's laborious. It's
mhm.
horrible. Like it's not horrible. I'm sorry, but I just like
Well,
it is.
you're not
Well,
wrong.
especially when it's your first baby, it is a long process. That is takes forever. It just takes a minute. It takes, and you need that support because how can you show up to pour into your partner who is birthing if you are exhausted and you irritated too and you're tired too and you don't
Mhm.
have the capacity and your oxytocin is low too? How am I going to help you build up your oxytocin so that it will progress the labor forward? Because that's what we need. So we need a lot of oxytocin. We need some cuddles. We need good feels. We need the person to feel safe and supported. So how can you feel that way if
Yeah.
I'm also like, hanging on by a thread? What am I supposed to do? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And even when my husband was like tired and exhausted, once we got closer to when the baby was gonna come, like
Mhm.
our doula helped my husband like stay on task. Like, all right, what are things that you know that you can do right now that are gonna support Ashley? How can you guys connect together while she's,
Mhm.
getting into this stage of labor? So I don't
Right.
think I have met anybody that has regretted having had a doula in the
Mhm.
birth and delivery room.
Right.
Not
Right.
one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, you may have a doula that's not the greatest on the planet, but it doesn't mean that all doulas are bad or that, it wasn't the greatest experience. I did have a friend that didn't really love the doula, but I think she still sees values in having a
Oh
doula.
yeah.
Now she's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna pay you to come here. And I'm like, you should have did that in the first place. But it's not like, yeah, call me girl, I'm here.
Yes,
So yeah,
yes.
please get the support. And I think it's also hard to digest. You're not less than if you get support,
Mm-mm.
right? Like we are taught to be like try to be these super women and like do these great, like you're not less than if you ask for help. And you better start learning how to ask for help now because you're going to need it when the baby comes. And you don't want to be the person that's struggling to ask for help because nobody,
Yeah.
it's not gonna impact anybody but you.
Yeah, and that goes back to the savior complex that you were talking about before, right? Where you want to heal everybody, but then you're leaving yourself drained and
That part.
not asking for stuff. Like we're human. We're supposed to be in community. And I forgot who was the person that had said this, but a lot of times when we're in these first world countries, we're really stripping away the community out of our experience. And then we're paying to have community once again. Like having the village, like the postpartum doulaship, right? Like if you're in a different environment where it's more community based, not everybody is spaced out, we're not all about money. Like usually you're going to be
Yeah.
able to have a few people that can drop everything and help you, but that's not
Right.
where we're at, right? So um we need
Maybe
we
more.
girl, if
Mhm.
it wasn't for my husband, for my doula, I'm just I'm just
Yeah.
talking about birth, I would not be here. If it wasn't because of the people that have helped me after doulaship, I don't know how it would be like sane. So like
Right.
there is
Right.
so much value
Mhm.
in people helping you
Yeah.
and
Truly.
just being there. Yeah.
Mhm. For truly. Yeah. I agree.
Preach, preach. Well, there's a few other questions that I had, but I feel like we're also coming to time.
Yeah. That's okay.
So let's see. We talked about your spiritual path and how we got
Yep.
here. We talked about how you've been able to build like your herbalist knowledge at the same time as you were building your scientific knowledge of the body, and how both of those things kind of went very well together hand in hand, how different things that you've gone through were able to help you be a steward and a doula for your own family members, that
Mhm.
helped you kind of retreat and just kind of get more clarity in how to support yourself first and foremost before you even go into other things. And then now you are a birth
Right.
worker, you're a doctor of physical therapy focused on pelvic floor or just pelvic health, period. which is about menstruation, it's about period, it's about pooping, peeing, it's about sex.
Yeah.
Which funny enough, a lot of things that help me with birth are also good to help you with having better orgasms. But anyways,
Mhm.
um,
Yes, this is true.
yeah.
Your pelvic floor is very key in your orgasms. Absolutely. So that's why I tell people, I'm like, okay, if you don't care about anything else, then let me tell you, let's talk about sex then. Okay. Like, when you try to get people to buy in on stuff, you're like, okay, you don't care about nothing else. Okay. Just the same way when you want to talk to a man, you just tell him, okay, this is going to make your dick harder. That's when they want to listen. That's the truth. So it's the same with pelvic health. I'm like, if when it comes down to it, this is actually the learning how to improve the coordination and the movement and the strength of your pelvic floor is what is going to be key to maximizing your pleasure and your, experience during sexual activity. So there we go. Yep. And it's raining right on cue. Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
So for those of you that are listening and want to better your sexual experience
Yeah.
or connecting with anything regarding pelvic floor relationships or just birth work, um, where can they find you? What services do you offer?
Yeah. So you can find me on the internet. No, I'm joking. But I
Google my name.
but I am on social media, on Instagram and TikTok. I am Dr. Grant, Grant underscore. That's where you can follow me, find all my content. I really like to make fun and easily digestible content where people can kind of see themselves and also talk about these topics without so much rigidity, without it being super duper clinical, but also in a way that's just like, okay, look, if you don't want your coochie to fall out, then these are the things you need to do. These things I do use words like coochie. And so which some people, some of my colleagues and stuff, they're like, we need to use anatomically correct. Yeah. But you got to meet people where they are. Okay. And so I call my coochie too. I don't always say vagina or vulva. I know the difference. Some people don't know the difference. Valid, understandable. But anyway, so yes, on social media, dr.grant underscore. That's where you can find me. I love TikTok, so definitely find me on TikTok. I have a little following on TikTok. It's super cute. I also have my practice, Invigorate Holistic Wellness. So you can also work with me virtually. So you can, get pelvic health coaching from me on a virtual basis. You can also see me in person in Louisville, Kentucky, where I do hands-on physical therapy work and support. I also offer in-person doula work as well as virtual support, which I have had a couple virtual clients, which is really interesting, where maybe people have other people that they want to be in the room, but they do want to prepare ahead of time, or they want me to be available to them so they can ask me questions or call me during the labor and delivery process, or have their family members kind of check in and say, hey, they're saying this, whatever. They still have that access and support. And so I do offer that as well as postpartum doula support. And I travel, so I can also come to you wherever you are as well. Right now, I do have some spaces available for the end of the year, for the end of 2025. So if anybody needs any doula support, holler at your girl. Outside of that, I do a couple different things, but I have a cohort. If you are someone that's postpartum or you're looking for some support, I do have a cohort in collaboration with Pelly Health called Once Postpartum, Always Postpartum, because postpartum never ends. It's literally post-birth. So we're literally post-birth for the rest of our lives. And so in that, it's really designed for people that are maybe 1 year plus postpartum. So 1, 5, 10 years postpartum, who never really got this information and are now in this wave of pelvic health and discussions around women's health on social media, and they're like, wow, I wish I had known about these things ahead of time. Wow, I wish I had a doula. I didn't know anything about that when I gave birth, or I didn't know anything about pelvic floor physical therapy in my early postpartum days. That course was specifically designed for that audience and that person who may be experiencing things in their bodies that they don't understand, or they want to understand how to improve their pelvic health for the long run, because our bodies will change. If you have a vulva, you have a uterus, your body is going to change. You're going to hit perimenopause and menopause, and it's going to do a lot of weird shit. And nobody is going to ever educate you on your body. They're never going to tell you this is what it does, this is what happens. So you need to, and it's very important to invest in that type of education and in those resources. So we have another cohort launching in September of 2025 as well. So that will be fun. It's coaching. I think it's like $150. It's not super expensive, and it's over a course of 8 weeks. And then you do get times to kind of work with me one-on-one. It's like a discounted rate for people that want to work with me one-on-one and that are meeting me through the Pelly Health platform as well. So there's a couple of ways that you can work with me as well. And you can always just reach out and ask me questions, get support, do a free consult to talk about how to work with me as well. That is also available on my website and on my social media platforms.
Yay, thank you. And I'll have all those in the show notes as well. That way you guys can look into the information. And before we go, I want to ask you one last question. So we talked towards the end about kind of the doulaship and birth work when it came to moms.
Yeah.
What is a piece of advice, just generally, that you would have for any new mamas out there?
A piece of advice for any new moms out there: ask for help if you need it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to lean on the people around you. And if they are raggedy, then find new people around you. But don't be afraid to. People are doing the best that they can out here. It's hard right now, right?
Yeah.
Our economy, there's so much that's happening. People are stretched thin in ways that they've never been stretched before. We have more education, more resources, and like less, financial freaking stability than we've ever had before. This is a very hard time to be an adult. This is a very hard time to be a parent. It's a very hard time to be a business. It's a very hard time compared to generations prior. So, when it comes to it, you're not less than because you have to get help. You're not, you know, you're not, what's the word I'm saying? What I'm trying to say? You're not, not an adequate mother, not an adequate parent or person, because you have to lean on support, and understand that there are people that are out here, there are professionals and people that are out here that are literally begging you to ask for help. So, and I'm one of those people. So if you need to get the therapist, find somebody, reach out. If you need to even reach out to me and say, hey, do you know any, perinatal therapists that can help me? Anybody that specializes in loss or grief? Do you know anybody that works, whatever? If I don't know them, I'll find out. I know plenty of people and I can find those resources, but please ask for help, and please go see a pelvic floor physical therapist, because there's so much that happens and changes in our body for during pregnancy and even previous to that. There's so much that happens, but for 10 months your body goes through significant changes, and there's absolutely no postpartum support in this country. And so because of that, you have to seek it for yourself. And so tapping into a professional, even if it's just one session where you at least get some clarity and you get some understanding, somebody looks at your body, they're able to talk to you, they're able to teach you about your body and your pelvic floor and your health, and see how you move and how you carry your baby and how you do chores around the house. Those things really matter in the ways that we age, and the ways that we continue to move as we get older, and as our body and our hormones continue to do this amazing roller coaster thing that it does, because it does. And nobody has ever taught us about our body in that way. And that is why, half of the reason why I do the work that I do, because I got pissed off when I saw that I didn't know anything about my body like I thought I did. So please ask for help, get the support, tap into resources, tap into support. Even if you had a C-section, it doesn't matter, because you were cut. You had significant surgery that cut through multiple layers of your body, and they gave you no real support after that. You should be mad. Okay. So ask for help and get the support. Don't feel like you can't, ask for what you need, because you deserve it. Closed mouths don't get fed, okay? And you deserve it more than anybody else out here. Boom.
So, moral of the story, get pissed and ask questions and ask for help.
Literally, get pissed, get curious, and ask questions. Get curious about your health, get curious about your body. Like, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? Why have I never heard this before? Exactly. Why haven't we heard it before? We don't know. Exactly. because we live in a patriarchal society, and that's a whole nother thing. But ask for help and literally take charge of your health, because nobody else is going to do it for you, and they're not going to care except you. It's your body. So,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
boom.
ma'am. Well, thank you so much for being here. Everybody take that advice with seasoning and
That
with
part.
water. Digest it.
All right, that was the end of this amazing episode. I hope that everybody left with some beautiful gems. Pelvic floor, postpartum birth, doulaship, herbalism, spiritual practices, anything and everything. And I hope that the pauses helped you stay in tune with the conversation and were a reminder to bring you kind of back to the conversation. But aside from that, I hope that you all have a great rest of your day, morning, evening, afternoon, wherever this episode has left you. And until next time.